Hi, welcome back to ITFL Online. I'm Paul Braddock, the web manager for Teaching English, and I'm here with Anne Foreman, who's the social media manager for the British Council. And I'm joined by Sandy Millin, who works for International House in Sevastopol, and Adam Simpson, who works at Sabancı University in Turkey. Welcome, thanks for joining us. We're here talking about blogging, the general topic of blogging. And really, the first question I'd like to ask you as successful bloggers, or prolific bloggers, I guess, for you, what do you think are the ingredients that make up a successful blog?
I think it's really difficult to answer because there are so many different kinds of blog, and I think a successful blog includes lots of different kinds of content, but it has to be something that the writer is actually interested in. You can really tell if somebody's writing a kind of mechanical post. You can only write posts that when you have something to say, it shouldn't be forced, it should be something that you're just writing naturally. And if you read a blog written by somebody who's writing naturally, it's much easier to read, it's much more interesting, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting, Adam.
Yes, I absolutely agree with Sandy, yeah. You just write in this way. But I'd also say, I learned by being a really unsuccessful blogger for a number of years how not to do it. And one thing I always bear in mind is write to one person, like you're explaining what you want to say to one person. But imagine you don't know who that one person is. So how are you going to explain this to somebody? And bearing in mind, you don't know what skills they have, you don't know how much experience they have. So how do you explain it in that way? And say, I know this, I'm sharing this with you, whoever that one person is. That's really been the key to it for me.
Right.
I mean, both of you managed to come up with a lot of ideas on a regular basis. So, you know, and Sandy's just said that it has to come from you. So, you know, what provokes you? What's the source of inspiration? What makes you think, I've got to write this blog post this week?
For me, they mill around in my head, and until they're on my blog, they're going to be in my head. So it's quite cathartic for me. I just have the idea in my head, and I go, okay, I need to get it out of my head. The blog's the place for it to go. And so I'll be kind of preparing it in my head for a while beforehand, and I probably have in my head at any one time 11 or 12 blog posts, but based on a whole range of different things. But it's not the whole post, it's just like a title, or I want to write a post about, I don't know, group work or something like that. It's not necessarily a concrete idea.
Funny you should say that, actually. Pretty much the way a lot of the time it's like, you know, note to self, you know, this happened today, blog about that at some point in the future.
Yes.
And then I'll be looking at, you know, because a lot of my inspiration comes from the classroom and what I do in the class. And so, you know, I did a video today, how did it go? Did I follow what I say I normally do? I didn't, it went wrong, so let's talk about that on the blog. Why did it go wrong, or why did it go well? What advice do I have for the person who wants to do that? So a lot of it's, like you said, it's there for some point in the future, and when it happens, okay, this is the time to blog about it.
And how do you assess your own work? I mean, what makes a successful blog post for you? Is it the number of hits it gets, or because you think you've really explained your ideas well, or because it's generated a lot of comments? I mean, what makes a successful blog post? I'm
extremely vain. How many people look, how many people read? Yes.
You do that, you check that, yeah.
I do, yes. Yeah. But, I mean, that's not all of it.
No.
And the best blog post for me is when I say, okay, you know, I've said I've 5 things I would do in this situation. What's number 6? What do you as the reader do?
Yeah.
And then when someone leaves a comment, I say, right, that's going in my post, and you can expand in that way. So it's trying to generate the community atmosphere and the feeling.
I think mine's a bit different there because I am addicted to stats. I think once you start writing a blog, it's impossible not to look at the stats, and I probably look at my stats 3 or 4 times a day. But I write everything on my blog, and there is absolutely no way for me to tell whether it's going to get 50 hits or 1,000 hits. And some of the posts that I thought nobody's ever going to look at this are still kind of top in my list now. So I write what I want to write. It's my blog for me, and the fact that other people are reading it still comes as a surprise when somebody says, "Oh, I read that post you wrote," and I go, I forgot I wrote that.
I'd say that's a really big key to it. Really, write for yourself, but it's coming from you.
Yeah.
And you're writing for people in a fairly similar situation, and there will be people interested. So as long as it's coming from you, you'll find an audience at some point.
So in a really sort of what you're saying, when you're writing for yourself, it's really for your own kind of professional development that you do it, and a way of reflecting on what you do. Okay. How do you? I mean, you both write a lot of posts, as we know. Where I think a lot of people will be interested in time management. And where do you find the time to do that? How do you integrate that into your kind of work?
I commute about an hour each, and then I'll make notes, or I can even type up. I can get my laptop out on my bus. Okay. So I use what would be dead time, or to do a lot of blogging actually.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I have kind of flurries. When I have a quiet week, I might write 3 or 4 posts, and then I won't write anything on my blog for 6 weeks. And then suddenly I'll go, oh, I've got 2 hours, I can write a blog post. And it's that thing about getting it out of my head as soon as I have time. And that might be at weekends, it might be in the evening. Just when I have time, I'll start writing a post.
Right.
So
I would say don't be a slave to it if you want to start blogging, or anybody who blogs now might feel, because I mean a lot of people feel compelled to write, like, oh, I haven't written this week, I'll rifle something off, and that's really...
I had a second blog where I thought I'll try and post every week, and it stopped because I couldn't keep it up. So.
One final question, I guess, for people watching who are thinking about starting a blog and they kind of don't really know how to go about it. What top tips would you give? What final advice?
When I started a blog, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea who I was writing for. I started it because I felt like it. And so I think if you want to start a blog, just do it and you'll find your way. And it took me probably 4 or 5 months before I started getting more than about 2 hits on any post that I wrote. And it builds up. The more content you have on the blog, the more people will come and look at it. So.
One thing I would say is that what's helped me a lot is coming to the Facebook page for British Council of Teaching English, because you share some really good things, and I do look and I say, what are other people? What interests me? What's making me click on that? And how have they gone about writing? So look at other bloggers.
Yeah, read other blogs.
What do they do? Why is it interesting to you? What made me want to read that? How have they shared their ideas with other people?
That's it. Read other blogs, comment on other blogs. I learnt so much from reading other people's blogs.
Okay.
So.
Great. Sandy, Adam, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. We'll be back very shortly with Catherine Billsborough, Willie Cardoso and James Taylor.